Hi everyone, Krista Travers here, and I know that I am stringing along this introduction to John quite a bit, but there's so much to learn, so much to know for the backdrop. And so we really need to get a handle on what is going on socially and economically and politically and so forth and so on. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you today about. So we're going to look at the political and the social climate of the area where Jesus lived and Jerusalem. And we're going to take a look and see what Israel looked like at that time. So let's go back a little bit. 60 years before Jesus was born, Rome had invaded Palestine, and it was continuing its expansion over everywhere. Just its empire was overtaking all of these lands, the Mediterranean Sea. Rome ruled over 50 million people at this time, including Spain, people in Africa, much of Europe, and of course Syria and Palestine. And so under Roman rule, travel and trade did flourish. And before this time, the Jewish people were ruled at first by the Persians, and it was a very unstable environment. And then we have Alexander the Great coming in, and he led the Greeks to defeat the Persians. And with that Greek influence came their Greek or Hellenistic culture. And so with that culture, we have in 168 BC, there was a statue that was erected that was of a pagan Greek god, and it was installed in the Jewish temple. So you know how that might be received. Well, a Jewish revolt resulted. It was led by Judas Maccabeus, and upon their victory, the Jewish people reclaimed the temple and established their own government. And Maccabeus' family led the Jewish tradition for over 100 years. But some of the family members were corrupt and they were wicked and cruel. And so when Rome took over and invaded in 63 BC, they really didn't put up that much of a fight just because it wasn't that much of a difference. Now, under Roman rule, during Jesus's time, taxation was very heavy. For the Jewish nation, it was heavy on land, on food, on goods, travel tolls, and so forth. And all that money went into Rome and their army and all just different modes of controlling the people. And some Jews were actually commissioned by Rome to collect taxes. And these tax collectors were called publicans. And our Matthew, one of the disciples, he was a publican. And so what most of these publicans would do is they would tax, yes, for Rome, but then they would way overtax the Jewish people, and the people knew it, of course, and they were seen as traitors, absolute traitors to their own people. I don't know if you've been watching The Chosen, but Matthew is very much disliked by a lot of them, especially Simon Peter at first just cannot stand him. And remember that Jesus was chastised for eating with tax collectors and sinners, as tax collectors and sinners. So you see how tax collectors were within that group there because they were just seen as traitors. So the Jewish nation was being overtaxed and ruled by this pagan nation, but Rome also did see value in allowing the people to continue in their customs and so forth. And so what Rome did was partner with the people that they ruled, in a sense, with some of the leaders of these groups. And so in Judea, Rome partnered with the Sanhedrin. Now, the Sanhedrin was composed of the high priest and several other chief priests and some other wealthy members who were allegiant to Rome. And so they reported to the Roman authorities. Now, I've been reading, as I do, and I love to find resources. And Philip Yancey wrote this book, The Jesus I Never Knew. I don't know if any of you have read this, but he speaks to the time, this time when the Jewish nation is really looking for someone to save them. And their someone is that promised Messiah. And so what he says here, he says, during Jesus's lifetime, revolt was in the air. Pseudo-messiahs periodically emerged to lead rebellions only to be crushed in ruthless crackdowns. To take just one example, a prophet known as the Egyptian attracted multitudes into the wilderness where he proclaimed that at his command, the walls of Jericho would fall. The Roman governor sent a detachment of soldiers after them and killed 4,000 of the rebels. He also says, when another report spread that the long-awaited prophet had turned up in the desert, crowds flocked to see the wild man dressed in camel skin. I am not the Christ, the Messiah, insisted John the Baptist, who then proceeded to raise hopes even higher by speaking in exalted terms of one who would soon appear. John's question of Jesus, are you the one who was to come, or shall we expect someone else, was in a real sense the question of the age, whispered everywhere. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that it wasn't just John who appeared as this prophet in the wilderness. You had a lot of, and I've heard this before, but you've had a lot of these pseudo prophets who were drawing the people out, that people were clamoring. They wanted the Messiah to come. And so that was the climate there that we see. We see that John was not the only wilderness prophet to move the people. The Jewish nation wanted change. They were awaiting the promised Messiah of the Old Testament, and this Messiah that they envisioned was one who was a descendant of David, one who would also be a political and a military leader, and that would redeem Israel from the powers that oppressed them. And at that time, of course, was Rome. So Jesus to them, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, but Jesus to them did not fit the bill. He was from a poor family. He didn't wield a sword. He never became physical king of Israel, and he was crucified in the most humiliating way possible. So little did they know that God himself had come to earth to save not just the Jewish nation, but all of humanity. In our next session, we will start on John 1:1, finally, and it is so interestingly rich. So please join me on this journey through John by hitting the subscribe button below, and take care. Until next time, be that light of Christ to those around you. God bless.